A new season of the Blancpain GT series kicks off here at Monza, the traditional opening round for the Endurance Cup. It's our first endurance race of the year. It's another monster entry, and the cars have just made their way. Correction, most have just made their way out onto the circuit. It is an entry, as ever, dripping with star names. One or two surprises, one or two changes and shuffles. You think, that's an interesting car, an interesting driver. You also realise that there are one or two regular names that aren't in the championship anymore. But that perhaps makes it even more intriguing for this year to see what jumbling is going to happen and who's going to come out on top. And take, for example, Rover Racing. They're at the head of the screen because they've defected from BMW to Porsche for this season. It's going to be intriguing to see how they get on. This is free practice. We're a bit late coming on air because of a delay in the earlier session. It is 90 minutes to cycle through the drivers, scrubbing tyres. David Addison and John Watson trackside. Looking forward, John, to another cracking year.
Certainly a year of diversity. Just looking at the Rover Racing Porsches, they've gone from the BMW, massive change, not just in terms of brands, but in terms of the fundamentals of the BMW versus the Porsche. And of course, there's a lineup of Porsche drivers in that car: Romain Dumas, Dirk Werner, Matt Campbell. Of course, Matt Campbell winning back in the beginning of February, the Bathurst 12 hours. Stunning victory in the closing laps, and he managed to squeeze by. How he eked by the Aston Martin of Jake Dennis just coming off the mountain will always be a question that I don't think either of them can answer.
You didn't think there was the width of the road, but
well, there wasn't.
Barely was.
There wasn't, but it opened up.
Yeah.
Jake Dennis opened it up very wisely, but in doing so, lost the victory.
Now there's a car that's going to be interesting to watch within the Pro-Am competition. Chris Buncombe driving with Chris Froggatt. They drove together representing Britain in the Nations Cup in Bahrain last year, and the Hong Kong driver Jonathan Cui with them. Good to have Chris Buncombe back for another season. Rejoined racing last year with Straka, and being a quick driver. Yeah,
but Chris Buncombe in particular, in that event in Bahrain, literally drove himself back into being the man in demand.
Yes.
He was a star all through the weekend, and all of a sudden Alex, his brother, who sadly no longer is a Nissan driver, and Nissan are no longer a part of the championship, found himself being basically overshadowed by Chris. Everybody wants Chris. It's almost the name of a movie. Everybody wants Chris.
Alex has got himself a Bentley seat for this weekend, which is good to see.
Yes.
But you're right, Chris has become in demand.
Chris is in the Bentley. Yeah. Alex is in the Bentley. Lucas Ordonez was in the Bentley out a couple of weeks ago in Laguna Seca. So there is no confirmed, as far as I'm aware, that one or the other will be in for the entire season. But certainly it's a great opportunity for Alex Buncombe here at Monza, and a circuit that he certainly knows well and has won at, to cement a seat in the Bentley M Sport team.
Mercedes was the car to have, and ACA ASP the team to beat last year. There is one of the numerous Mercedes, 87. That's Jim Pla, Mauro Ricci and Jean-Luc Bobelic from the Pro-Am competition. We've got 48 cars on the grid, and some people might say, oh, only 48, because we've got used to 50s and sometimes 60 plus, but actually 48 is a manageable number. It means the pit lane isn't too crowded, the road isn't too crowded. It's crowded enough, but not overly so.
It's always a problem when you get in excess of 50 cars on any racetrack, with the exception of somewhere that's maybe over 4.5 miles in length, and in Spa, Francorchamps is just about on the limit, and it only works in Spa because they've got the two independent pit lanes. Most circuits in Europe have got pit lane capacity with working space for around about 30 cars. So everybody has to concertina in on that pit lane, share pit boxes, put up dividers to ensure that you've got your own little bit of space and privacy.
Now the Mercedes, you see, 87, Jim Pla at the wheel of it. Not related to Olivier Pla, before you ask. Renault Formula 3, GP3 driver, Carrera Cup France of late. And he has set the target time of a 1:48.380, just beaten, in fact, by Jordan Witt, who moves to Barwell this year with one of the Silver Cup Lamborghinis, the experienced Northwesterner. And then, quicker than anybody, Raffaele Marciello has woken up everybody, and a 1:48.320, bam, into the top of the times.
I mean, why would anybody be surprised? Raffaele Marciello has been the man in the Mercedes ACA ASP team. Occasionally, he's gone over the top. I remember back at Misano when he just simply drove the car too tight in turn 14, I think it was, damaged the suspension, threw away a victory. But when he is on it and when he is in control, very exciting to watch and outstandingly quick. So that's one of the cars that's going to be the 88 Mercedes to keep an eye upon. Have a new co-driver in that car as well. Vincent April has come over from the M-Sport, the Bentley M-Sport team, into the ASP. He had a big smile on his face yesterday. I think he likes the Mercedes-Benz. He didn't say he didn't like the Bentley, but I think Vincent April is a driver who is in the process of evolving and growing, and part of that development is going to be now as part of that team with Raffaele Marcello and Michael Meadows.
Another little Bentley change is that they've gone from being the regular numbers 7 and 8 to 107 and 108 because it's Bentley's centenary, so they're now 107, 108. This is the view coming out of the Variante Ascari, which has been the undoing of people in the GT4 sessions already this morning. Marcus Winkelhock for Audi has now gone to the top of the time to 147.901.
Well, everybody just simply going out. First couple of laps ought to be the quickest. Best lap we saw actually yesterday's was 148.0, which was in fact the 88 Mercedes-Benz. So that's now been, in fact, the best was actually the Buncombe Souchet Soule, 157.7. So that was done earlier in the morning. So 147.7.
Phil Keane has just gone second in one of the Orange One FFF racing team Lamborghinis, and he's done a 148.280. But then the Bathurst hero Matt Campbell has got second fastest, 148.179. So it's Audi, Porsche, Lamborghini, Audi, Lamborghini, Mercedes, the top 6 at the moment. But Matt Campbell, who's raced here in Porsche Super Cup and is a very accomplished Porsche driver, is certainly going to be one to watch. But him, Dirk Werner, Dennis Olsen in one car, Mathieu Jaminet, Romain Dumas and Sven Muller in another. That's a good lineup for Rover Racing.
It's the first time in a number of years that I can remember that Porsche as a factory brand, as a factory team, has been represented at this level with this quality of drivers. So I'm expecting from my hobby and interest, I'm expecting a strong and consistent performance from the Rover Racing Porsche team, and let's hope that this brand will be in there in the mix. Look, there's a new face there, the Honda Jensen Button, part of that operation run by Bob Neville.
Let's go back to the Porsches. Last year we had one car, didn't we, from Manthey Racing, the Fred McAnee, Romain Dumas, then entry that flattered to deceive a little bit, but Rover Racing would not make that step from BMW to Porsche if it didn't feel it had a realistic chance of success.
But more importantly, to have what I would describe as, in effect, a full factory. I mean, Manthey Racing is Porsche in reality.
Absolutely.
It's a subsidiary of the company in effect. But this, to me, and look there, the Porsche comes down, you can see the 99 on the bonnet. They would not, as you point out, make a change from one leading German brand to another leading German brand unless they thought there's something better within the package that Porsche is going to provide. And that's why I'm very excited about the prospect of seeing these two Rover Racing Porsches consistently at the front of the field, particularly here in this endurance round of the Blancpain Championship.
Seen Hans-Peter Nandorf's team with Mercedes, with BMW, now with Porsche, so he's ticking off the different brands, but he wants to be a winner, and there is number 99 there, which has got Matt Campbell at the wheel, and it's done a 148.179 to be third fastest, and pretty much everybody has gone pouring out onto the circuit. Shown as the slowest is Andrea Caldarelli, but that's because he's yet to do a lap time.
I did see him. Andrea was absolutely engrossed in a meeting up just outside the press room.
Right.
So clearly there was something that he needed to focus upon above and beyond running the team, and so I didn't want to stop and interfere or any assistance, but it just looked one of those things, stay away, don't get involved.
Well, let's see what he can do now then when he's in the car, when he's mind on the job, and what can he do to get the Lamborghini up the order. Well, at the moment, the best of the Lamborghinis, as I said a moment ago, is that of, no, not Phil Keane anymore, Mirko Bortolotti. It is now 6th fastest.
Yeah, looking all the way down at 34th place, Suzuki El Perez Compact, no longer in the Lamborghini, and there is the Porsche locking up, coming up into Ascari.
Oh, Matt!
No, very good.
He's off, he's on again. Matt Campbell runs wide.
Yeah, just a little bit late in the brakes. Snatched the right front brake coming into Ascari, loses effectively all the steering in the process. But just going back, well, where's he popped up to? Because Suzuki El Perez Compact was at that point 34th, or maybe he's dropped outside the top 34 then.
He has, 35th, yes.
Okay.
Falling down the order
Once again, here's the Porsche, locks up that right front. all of a sudden the car's not slowing down, it's not turning, and he's got little option but just to take to the gravel, forging the gravel. There's been some rain here over the last few days, so the gravel will be a little bit more compacted as the consequence of that rain. And unfortunately, we're being advised of weather patterns coming in overnight and through tomorrow, so we have to wait and see whether that will be revised later in the afternoon.
There's 97, Aston Martin. That's the TF Sport Run Oman Racing Team car with a problem.
Where is the V12?
Ah, times move on, don't they?
Exactly. What we've got is an Aston Martin. I mean, a fantastic chassis, great brand, but it's got now the same V8 turbocharged motor that's in a Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3.
There's the Honda behind it. Team's going to work. We've touched on Lamborghini. Let me just throw this into the air, not to try and catch anybody out, John, but Christian Engelhardt is back with Grasser Racing Team. Now, at the end of last year, I was under the assumption, from what we were being told, that he'd been dispensed with. He seems to be back.
Move on, dear boy, move on.
Okay. Is that political?
I don't know. I mean, look, it was a complicated scenario,
yes,
and nobody really, outside of the officials who had to take action, and you know, the penalty was very severe. But anyway, it looks like, you know, you get a little cut in your hand and you wait a couple of weeks and it heals up and you never think about it again. And maybe this is bigger than a little cut, but it's healed and it's moved on.
It's that principle, okay.
That's my view. Not that is not the team's view, that's my view.
Yeah. The team may not fess up to the whole story, so it's an intriguing situation, that's for sure. Andrea Caldarelli there at speed in 5.63 to go up to 30th then. Now, what do we look at? I know this isn't a qualifying session, but what are we looking for here in terms of cars that should be up the front? Ferrari, we know, does one at Monza.
What we're looking for is who is going to go quickest, and I think this session is going to be the most important session all weekend. Because if on Sunday morning we wake up and we've got biblical rain falling, which is the forecast, and that has a bearing on the circuit conditions, whether or not that will have a bearing on whether we actually have qualifying or not, which is going to be held 9:30 on Sunday morning. The default situation in that case would be the times from this session would then become effectively the grid.
Pre-qualifying this afternoon.
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right.
Yeah.
It would have to come from somewhere. But
okay, yes.
Yeah.
I'm getting the sessions. But the principle is what happens today and what happens now, but it will be the pre-qualifying in the afternoon, that will be the determinant.
So what they've got to do now is get everything ready for pre-qualifying, which, as you say, could well become where you get the grid from. Qualifying, remember, if we get a session tomorrow, will be the usual three parts. Whoops, Mercedes off, red flag.
Big shunt.
Big shunt indeed. And I'm trying to identify
red flag
which
as well.
Mercedes it is. The car won't go back out and you'll lose your lap time.
I was trying to work out. It's coming into this one of the whereabouts is that? It's difficult to tell. Why? It's out of the Ascari. It's out of the Ascari. Yeah.
He spun and gone backwards into the wall.
I mean, how he got there, because that's actually very early on the exit of the corner. You can see the rumble strip on the outside, on the left hand of the picture. But to get there, it's almost as if he had a failure or some kind of issue that he actually didn't attempt to take the entire Ascari chicane.
Just wondering if that might be Mercedes number 6, which was being driven by
cars. Oh, this is a big Bastian.
Gabriele Piana put into
that. This is the number 90. Can't be the number 90. Nico Bastian. Now, Nico Bastian, highly skilled, very successful. It would be unlikely, in my view, that there was a mistake that he made. It may have been an element we hopefully might have coverage. We wait and see whether that can be found. But everybody now making their way back at 50 kilometers per hour. Wasn't it in the GT4 practice or qualifying just before this that somebody set their fastest lap with the red flag out?
Yes.
That's an interesting conundrum. I mean, I wonder at what part of the lap the driver didn't see the red flag.
Two of them did it. Fiona James being one and Lisette Brahms being the other.
Sorry, who was that?
Fiona James and Lisette Brahms, the two ladies in the GT4 entry. So they both got pinged for that, lap time taken away. Car 43 has hit the barrier, we are told. That's the Stracker Mercedes. So that would make more sense, would it not? 43 had at the wheel.
Well, Lewis Williamson, probably.
Jack Hawksworth, the timing screen says.
Well, that's a shame.
So that car off the road. The qualifying sentence unstarted, you take the average of Q1, Q2 and Q3 for the 3 driver cars. Whereas if you have to do a grid from pre-qualifying at the end of the day, it'll just be the best time.
Yeah.
So it's a different way of forming the grid completely.
And, I mean, because it's only a single session, as opposed to qualifying, which is the triple, almost. Yeah. So, I mean, whatever way it is, whoever's quickest is quickest. It doesn't matter. There's only one session to do it in. There are the times, 1:47.7 for the number 26 Audi.
So the field heading down the pit lane. Of course, everybody has to crawl back in under a red flag, so it takes a long time to get everybody back. Alain Adon, who is the race director, has already said to the team, session will restart on short notice, so they've got to get ready and cycle back out as quick as they can. Clock carries on ticking.
Now watch and see if it is the replay. There, what did I say? Just went straight on. Because where he was, there is no way you would get there if you had made a mistake in the middle of the chicane. That car didn't, well, it slowed down a little bit, but it didn't appear to make any effort to turn whatsoever.
It's quite a moment, that, isn't it? That's,
well, I mean,
that's a worry.
It reminds me of James Courtney. Way back, and good knows when. James Courtney, of course, now famous as a supercar driver in Australia. But when he was testing, I think it was for Jaguar,
yes,
had a horrible accident up there, when very much similar kind, and you know, it ended his potential single-seater career. But he had a very unpleasant and took quite a time to recover from, you know, injury. And that had all the makings, just going in straight on, whether it was maybe a throttle or a brake or goodness knows whatever it could have been. It could have been a driver error, we don't know. We'll have to, maybe our pit lane team will be down there, no doubt, beavering away to get us that information.
Green flag, session is live again, so look, quickly get the car out of the way and we are good to go. There is the second generation Bentley. Marcus Winkelhock, currently the fastest for the Santalog squad. Everybody venturing back out onto the road. So the Straka Mercedes then is the cause of that stoppage, and hopefully the damage is not so great that we're not going to see the car again later on today.
Again, another version of the Grasser Racing, almost Porsche Viper green, the Lamborghini colour. It isn't, of course, but it's very similar. Orange stripes, so the orange roof on that 63 car. The sister car got the black bonnet.
Yeah, the FFF Racing Team is a squad that we've seen in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia and then in the Blancpain GT Series Asia in the last few seasons. Now coming across with a really concerted effort with 3 cars into the European Championship. It's funded by occasional racer Fu Song Yang, and Red Caldarelli, the 2017 Endurance Champion, is team manager. He's the sort of player manager. He runs the team and he drives the car as well.
Yeah, that's never the ideal scenario to be driver and manager. There's particularly running a 3-car outfit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of responsibility, and racing at this level, frankly, I think a driver should have one role, and that's that of the driver, trying to do all the other roles, carry out all the other roles and other, you know, personal responsibilities, you know, that he has to deal with at the same time. So it's a big ask, I think, for Andrea Caldarelli. No wonder his hair looked like it was a bit spiky this morning when I was walking past.
Yes, male grooming is at the bottom of the list, clearly, with everything else on his plate. Over the timing line there goes the Mercedes. Black Falcon here with a concerted effort again this season, as well as ACA ASP. And 26, Marcus Winkelhock is still in the pit lane, in fact, the fastest driver thus far, but he's not yet ventured out. See everyone weaving around there, coming down towards the Parabolica. The Rinaldi Racing Ferrari 33 goes into the Parabolica. That's the Christian Hook, Steve Parrow, Manuel Lauk car that runs in the AM Cup. Manuel Lauk, very experienced. He'll probably be the star in that car. He's a sort of AM class, really, but went very well in the Lamborghini World Finals last year. Christian Engelhardt, second fastest in the 63 Lamborghini.
No surprise at all.
Back, everybody. Yeah.
No, I mean, what happened at Nürburgring was an unpleasant moment for everybody involved. It doesn't take away from the driver's ability and skill.
So, drivers on track, co-drivers watching on in the pit lane. And Alex Riveras for WRT, one of the drivers that's going to be worth watching this weekend. He's with Dakota Jane in the pits.
Alex, another year back here at Blancpain GT. What an amazing field it looks like. You won this race last year. How does it feel to be back here at Monza?
Well, obviously extremely happy to be here, you know. I mean, Monza is such a special place for us. We all in WRT are ecstatic to come back to a race where we were so successful last year, and we are aiming to start this Blancpain Endurance campaign the same way we did in 2018.
And what is it like understanding your new Audi?
Excuse me?
What is it like understanding the new car, the setup, how the tires run, etc.?
I mean, so far we are like extremely happy with the car. Audi has done a tremendous job with the new evolution of the car, and we're just, you know, working on it, trying to perfect it. Currently, there's an Audi right now fastest on the session, so it's a good sign, and let's keep it like that.
Alex is very optimistic. Well, good luck, Alex.
Thank you.
Alex Riveras and Dries Van Thor, headline number 2, but a new co-driver. John touched on it earlier. Ezekiel Perez Compound switching from Lamborghini to Audi. Is it going to be radically different, do you think?
The running gear is fundamentally the same.
Indeed.
There are other differences. You know, it is a different chassis. It is certainly a very different aerodynamic package. And you're going from the Grasser Racing team, which is a very, very well organised team, very successful with Lamborghinis over the last number of years, to the success story of Audi, the WRT team. So the differences are going to be, in my view, quite a lot. But the detail, probably in terms of out-and-out pace and performance, is not going to be a huge amount of difference. But it's one might say, for Ezekiel Perez Compact, to go from the Grasser Racing, the step to WRT is probably, I would say, half a step upwards. Not a full step, but half a step upwards.
And he will need the mileage in that car. But at the moment, number 2 is Dries Van Thor, shown as the driver. Davide Rigon up over the timing line in the SMP Racing Ferrari. Last year, that was always a quick car, but a bit short in the luck department.
Well, Davide Rigon, I mean, particularly, is an outstanding driver. He's been in a Ferrari for so many seasons. But this is a car that, well, I think on a couple of occasions we had our, if you want to put it, money as a potential winner. It has the pace, the lineup was strong. Again, I would have to say the 72 Ferrari is going to be one of those cars with Molina, Aleshkin and Davide Rigon. There's probably about 12 driver car pairings here who are all capable of victory, just simply on pace, not on relying on reliability or other factors.
Now, how is that Ferrari going to get on? We know that the Ferraris are normally pretty quick around here because they're the right shape. They cut through the air. But at the moment, you've got to go quite a long way down to third, Andrea Bertolini, and that's a Pro-Am Ferrari.
Yeah.
But, you know, Bertolini is the pro, so it's no real surprise. So there is Rigon, making his way under the section of the bank circuit, the old circuit, down towards the Variante Ascari. Matt Campbell's Porsche 8th after the gravelly moment early on, the sister car of currently Sven Müller, 27th.
So the Porsche are still in the pits, having had that little trip, albeit relatively harmlessly, through the gravel up at the Ascari chicane. It's down into Parabolica. The exit of this corner, you have got the, whether it is AstroTurf or paint, I think it is AstroTurf on the exit. You're allowed to run it with 2 wheels, but you start putting all 4 over, then you're getting into the territory of that familiar old chestnut track limit of use. I understand that there will be a slightly more liberal attitude taken here this weekend to track limit of use, primarily because here in the chicanes you can see the curbing, particularly on the inside of the chicanes, is a much more aggressive curbing, and therefore would discourage drivers from wanting to shortcut the exit of any of these chicanes. There are 3 chicanes all round the Monza circuit coming down through what was known as the Curva Grande, now called Bassiano, And then down to Variante della Roggia, which is the second chicane, which is probably the most, I think, frustrating and tricky. People will try and pass on the entrance, sometimes in the middle, and maybe on the exit down into Lesma 1. So anyway, the change to curbing, again, you can see on the exit of Lesma, that's traditionally fairly flat. But you get all four wheels off the racetrack, then you need to be aware that you could find yourself up to see the Masters.
So there is Christian Engelhardt, second fastest, pushing on. We're not getting that many improvements in sectors, but it's not that sort of a session. It's not about going quickly necessarily. It's about getting the track time in. Yesterday there was testing that wasn't part of the event officially, and it was these cars and also the GT Sports Club cars to go out, and if they wanted the opportunity to pay for testing, they could do so, but it wasn't officially part of the event, as it were. So this really is the first time that you've got just the Blancpain GT Series cars on track, and some drivers who weren't in the cars yesterday getting their first mileage, they're scrubbing in tyres. Some people are learning about a new circuit or a new car or a new team or all of those things. So there's a to-do list for some of the teams longer than a Leonard Cohen song. They've got a lot to do here.
Well, I think some of the teams would have taken the opportunity to put on the freshest, if not a new set of rubber, at the very beginning, and that's why we got those times dropping down into competitive areas pretty quickly. Now the tyres have been, well, some times are into 11 laps. The Ferrari, the 72 Ferrari, is on its 12th lap. Muller in the 98, he's on his 11th lap. So most of the field are certainly into 6, 7, 8 laps of this session. To the top of the tyre, the peak performance of the tyre will have peaked, and they're now looking for continuity and consistency, and it will be more about consistency ultimately than that one single fast lap with Andrew Watson. Again, a change of family into the, not family, the Garage 5019 ran the McLaren last year, but in the Aston Martin, again with that V8 AMG turbocharged motor.
And Aston Martin also now a very supportive backer of the BLDC Autosport Young Driver of the Year Awards, taking over from McLaren. Dries Van Thor up to 29th fastest. Okay, he's certainly improved lap time, he's a long way down, but as we saw last year, the Audis were never the quickest cars, but they were at the front when it mattered.
One car that's gone rather quickly is the 31 Bentley of Parker Racing, Seb Morris. That will be, has he got now the Evo 2 Bentley?
Yes.
So they're up to scratch effectively with the M Sport team. So good effort by, I mean, again, probably because relatively fresh set of tyres. Nevertheless, the time has been established, 1:47.9, so that's just 0.2 of a second away from the quickest time Marcus Winkelhoff set at the very opening part of this session.
Team Parker Racing runs the Seb Morris car, and they go their own way on the setup. They share information with M Sport, but they go their own way largely, and it seems to be working on that car. Well, Seb will join the factory for Spa as well, won't he? He's going to be a factory driver for 24 hours.
But Mons should not slavishly follow what the factory is doing, because while the factory, you would assume, would know the right steps to take, it isn't always the case. You've got driver preference. You've got some drivers like a car that is a little bit more on the loose side, some prefer them a little bit more pushy, more understeery. There's the 107. That's the Stephen Kane car. And that, so it's all about your preferences.
Yeah, indeed. I suppose my point was, Seb Morris is 5th, the works cars are 16th and 24th. Well, for the moment.
For the moment, I mean, as you point out, it's not a relevant part of the session. All it is right now is that Seb Morris is 5th actually in the Parker Racing Bentley, is quicker than the two M Sport, what might be called the factory cars. But right now, with 58 minutes remaining, it's irrelevant.
As they work through their programme.
It's actually Jules Gounon currently behind the wheel of the 107.
Who's driving 77 at Lamborghini for Barwell at the moment, because it's under investigation for speeding in the pit lane, we are told. Leo Nichitsky, the Russian driver. So whether it was him on the way out or somebody else bringing it in, but that car...
Well, it's the car gets the penalty.
Indeed,
and,
yeah.
It isn't always the driver who's on timing and scoring at the time the actual penalty has been announced, or the offence has been announced.
Jules Gounon into the pit lane. Unlucky not to win at Paul Ricard last year with a flapping bonnet. It's a shame we don't have the Emile Frey Racing squad back in this year with the Lexus. But even so, it's a mighty competitive entry. Fastest at the moment, number 26. It's the Santilok car, but Marcus Winkelhock's time, he's now given over to Pierre-Yves Pack to go and drive. Pierre-Yves Pack, who has done the bulk of his racing in Carrera Cup Germany or the Benelux Porsche Championship. Their number 10 is the Silver Cup WRT Audi of Ricardo Sanchez, ex-Nissan,
yes.
Rick Brokers, ex-Lamborghini Super Trofeo star, and Charles Veers, who was mighty impressive in Bahrain in the Nations Cup.
Yes, and immediately identifiable in that WRT colour. where is the WRT colour? It looks like a sort of animated bumblebee at the minute.
Yeah, I was going to say, someone's bought Vance on a pack of highlighter pens. He's got giddy with the yellow one, hasn't he? But it draws attention to itself. Charles Veers was very, very good in Bahrain at the back end of last year. He was the 2017-2018 UAE Formula 4 champion. He was 5th in the German Formula 4 Championship last year. So Charles Veers, from a single-seater background, now moving into GT racing, he's going to be one to watch as the year progresses, that's for sure. And number 10 Audi comes through the Parabolica. Ricardo Sanchez is at the wheel of it. Bob Neville thought he had him signed up for one of the Hondas, and then at the 11th hour there was a little bit of toing and froing, and Ricardo Sanchez rocks up at Audi.
The good news is that Bob Neville is here, and he's got that Honda package. JAS, which is the company that has done the bulk of the development work on the NSX, which are just down the road from Monza Circuit, very much here present. And first of all, a great addition to the Blancpain GT series. There's the car.
It's a nice shape, isn't it?
It's a great shape. I mean, it's a great car. It's a great car. Interesting, you know, just a little bit of insight talking to Struan Moore last night, and obviously, you know, it's the antithesis of what the Nissan GTR that he raced. He didn't get to drive the Gen 2 Nissan, which was a big improvement, a big step forward, but going from a big front-engine car to a mid-engine, rear-engine car, as is the Honda, much more racing car inclined. And of course, the principal of the team races for the brand in fact, he's racing this weekend at not Yokohama, but somewhere in Japan anyway.
Super GT, yes, Jones back. So the Honda NSX out of the Variante Ascari, and this very much a development weekend. The man behind the wheel of the car at the moment is Philip Frommenweiler, former Porsche racer, and staying on the back of now Rob Smith in the Bentley. He's taken over from Seb Morris, Rob, Le Mans class winner with, in fact, Dries Van Thor a couple of years ago. There is Frommenweiler. It does feel strange not having Nissans around, though, doesn't it? They've been such a mainstay of the championship.
Well, they've been a part of the championship all the way back to the GT1 days, and then all the way through the Blancpain GT3 Sprint and Endurance Championships. There's been a number of changes, and you know, it's going to take a little bit of adjustment just to get our head around them, both in terms of teams moving to different brands and their partner having to take avoidance principally because the Ferrari was unaware, so seemed deemed prudent to cut the inside of the first of the chicanes around Monza.
One of the Nissans has found itself in a club racing home. It was at Alton Park racing a few weeks ago. Nigel Muston has got one of the GT3 Nissans to go racing in. 111 is the Antonelli, Davide Roda, Giuseppe Cipriani, Marco Antonelli driven Mercedes. That's about to venture out.
Oops, stay, wait. Very anxious to get out of the racetrack with traffic coming, so you've got to wait. Well, there was traffic coming. So the guy with the paddle board said, no, hold on, I'll tell you when you can go.
Marco Antonelli drives and runs the team. It's an AM Cup car. Giuseppe Cipriani, the hotelier and restaurateur. So, apart from one car, we have everybody having done a time, and that one car is number 15 of Renault Coupens, which is the Buxton-Gignon Lamborghini that he shares with Claude-Yves Gosselin and Pierre Felicioni. Renault Coupens, if you've got a long memory for GT racing, you might remember in the Gillette Vertigo with Bas Linders, going back to what was then the G2 class within the FIA GT Championship.
Alex Rivera is just following the Audi. Get away from answering that question. No, I don't. The answer is no, I don't remember. But I'm more interested in what's happening with Alex Riberas, who only a few minutes ago was on the pit wall, carrying out interview duties, now behind the wheel. So that car currently all the way down 29th, but totally irrelevant because if you see, he's trying to pick up a little bit of a slipstream from the Ferrari directly ahead. It'll be, can he make a slip down the inside and get that position? Yes, he has. It'll slightly compromise his exit speed because he had to go so tight on the entry into Parabolica, so his exit speed will consequently be fractionally reduced, but he retains the advantage over the Ferrari coming across the line. Let's see whether number 2, Audi Riberas, does it go anywhere or not? No, it still stays in 29th position.
So now you're getting drivers cycling through cars. So you've got Philippe Pack taking over the number 26 Audi. You've got Louis Machiels taking over the best of the Ferraris from Andrea Bertolini. Alex Riberas last time was an outlap, so he's onto a flying lap now. Nicky Thiem has taken over 76. And the car that hasn't done a lap time has been done for speeding in the pit lane, rather strangely. So Renault Coupen's Pierre Felicioni and Claudia Gosselin's car has been reported to the stewards for pit lane speeding, but it hasn't actually done a lap time.
Well, that might go into the record book. anyway, there is one of the potential race-winning cars, the 88. Currently in 4th place, Michael Meadows was behind the wheel. He's brought the car in. Or he is about to get in, because the transponder will have been adjusted to his name. If you see the quickest car, currently still that 26 Audi.
So that's Philippe Pack. Sorry, Pierre-Yves Pack, forgive me, at the wheel. And the relative newcomer to Blancpain, but with a decent pedigree. Blue flags being waved busily by the marshals. Haven't found an improved sector time anywhere in the top 35, but as we keep making the point, there's a programme here, and the drivers and the teams work through that. The heroics can come at the end of the day.
Well, they've started on a set of tyres, and they will probably finish on that same set of tyres, assuming that they don't have any issues with curbing or puncturing or whatever. There's one of the SRO Motorsports Aston Martins. Again, thinking of the 88 Mercedes, either of these two SRO Motorsport Aston Martins are more than capable of taking victory. And I mean, well, where does the Mercedes begin and where does the Aston end?
Still a great looking car, but it's a different noise.
It's more brutal looking. It's more brutal than ever before. So that's not a bad thing in my book, but it is a different sound. In fact, it's almost, when you hear it going past the pits, it's almost silent.
Yeah. Now, is that a problem that it has to go to its pit box for?
Well, you can't have more than 2 people working in the car in the pit lane, so if they want to have more people on the car, or they want to make a change to the car, then just stick it back in the garage. It doesn't take too long to do. So having a little check around the front for clearing out potential grass or cuttings, leaves. Not that there'll be many leaves this time of year. Gravel is the principle.
SRO Motorsport, very welcome and a very successful addition to the Blancpain ranks.
And of course they're competing in other championships in Europe, DTM notably this year. There's the 76 monstering the curb in the middle of the first chicane.
Nicky Thiem. Another day, another track, another accident, and he's flat out as ever. Getting one driver being warned about track limits. We were told the race director wasn't going to be overly concerned about those, but Romain Dumas is being told to be mindful of track limits at the Parabolica.
I think it is the exit of Parabolica where you can get all 4 wheels off the racetrack, over that little bit of red and white painted curb, onto the AstroTurf. So that's where most likely, again, you can see what's coming out of Lesmo 1, where you can run very wide. Again, you can run very wide in the exit of Lesmo 2. But fundamentally, if you can keep 2 wheels, the inside 2 wheels, just about on the racetrack, that's going to be just a wave on, a wave by.
Peter Schotthorst is going through the shop, 25th fastest in number 55. Another late addition into that car because it didn't have more than 1 nominated driver a few days ago. But Peter Schotthorst and brother Stein Schotthorst both in that car with Mathieu Drudi now.
And also Kelvin van der Linde, somebody who we thought was outstanding. He's in the Attempto Audi, so a few changes that Steinhorst, didn't they share with van der Linde at some point? or did they share just for themselves?
One was with him certainly last year, yes. But they've all stayed with Attempto. They're just doing across different cars, aren't they? Yeah. The Aston Martin of Garage 59 we've not really come to yet, but that's going to be a car worth watching of Corbin Edgar, Johnny Adam and Andrew Watson. That's the scene at Rover Racing as they look at the car that's 99 rather is the one that's in. So it's Matt Campbell's car.
You're going back to the Garage 59 Aston. They had a problem. At one point, it was an incurable misfire, and they were given a dispensation to go out at the end of the day just to see whether they could clear it up.
The so-called hardship lap.
Hardship indeed. Well, if it helps and nobody objects to it, then it should go forward. Getting very grey.
It is.
At the far end of the racetrack. It doesn't look at it this, the pit lane side, but if you look all the way down towards the chicane and then through the Curva Grande, as I still like to call it, into the second chicane, it's beginning to look overcast and grey.
Now, a Gulf Porsche we've never had in Blancpain, but this is a welcome sight. Benjamin Goethe, son of the team principal Roel Goethe, Stuart Hall and Jordan Grugar are the drivers. Stuart Hall, the more experienced of the three, having been fourth at Le Mans, and former single-seater racer. His dad, Pete Hall, regular saloon and sports car, touring car racer in the UK for 3 decades or so. And Rothko, Roel Goethe's collection of Gulf liveried cars, with his name adorning the side of the car. GPX is the team, GPX Racing. And Stuart Hall will be the quick driver, but he'll also be the driver coach really in that, so he's got 2 responsibilities.
Well, I thought maybe Adrian Hamilton might drop in.
As the man that helps with the Gulf purchases.
Indeed, with the acquisition of all the Gulf. I have raced for Gulf.
Yes.
Back in the good old days of the early 70s.
I want to say that was in a Mirage.
It was a Mirage, indeed.
Now, 555 is another of the FFF Lamborghinis, and that is the car of Taylor Proto, Diego Menchaca and Michele Beretta. Taylor Proto, the American at the wheel of it, his father born in the UK but emigrated to the States. Taylor Proto has been a very competitive Lamborghini Super Trofeo racer in North America, now coming to a full season of European racing.
Sort of similarities in the colouring of those cars, certainly on this side view, to that of the Grasser Racing. Oh, wow, just clips the exit coming out of Ascari chicane. Fortunate the car was travelling sufficiently straight that it didn't snap around, because the exit of the Ascari chicane has been a scene of many victims. There is the 555.
So Proto out of the Parabolica.
And that sound you hear is the serrations in the curbing, and if we can hear it in the commentary booth, you can imagine what it does to the chassis and the shock load that goes through the suspension components, and let alone the poor old Pirelli tire.
Yeah, indeed. Taylor Proto's car is 11th fastest at the moment. Alex Bunker, by the way, has taken over 108. We talked about Alex earlier, and he's now at the wheel of the Bentley. His dad, Jonathan, himself a former racer, is here as ever. And I said to him yesterday, which garage do you go and live in then? Do you go to the Ferrari garage for Chris or the Bentley garage for Alex? He said, oh, I'm staying with Bob, pointed at Bob Neville, with whom he has a great relationship based on many, many years. So he's completely neutral, not favouring either son.
The thing with RJN, Bob Neville Racing, and it's a very, very friendly garage.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And Bob's wife, Liz, is absolutely stunning, and you know, if you want a cup of tea or like a biscuit, you know, it's a place you can walk into and not feel you're intruding into somebody's little private space.
You're absolutely right. And we have a yellow flag in sector 1. Somebody's off the road in sector 1, so we'll try and get to that in a moment, but there's a yellow flag being shown. That's the reason.
Yes,
WRT Audi.
Yeah, down at the first chicane, so just giving a moment's gap, that traffic that might be coming through, as there it is. So is it damage to that rear wing? Is it hard to just to look? Maybe the attitude of the car. We weren't aware of him hitting anything, but suddenly the car has stopped. I thought maybe to allow the cars that were leaving the chicane to clear, but there's a slight, looks slightly askew. There we go. Ah, there we go. Turns in, turns in, turns in.
Bang.
Bang. Right rear gets tagged.
Red flag. So that's the Shea Davies, Alex McDowell, Paul Petit car. And a red flag is being shown. It was number 15, the Gosselin Feligioni Kuppen's car that made contact with it. That was the one that had been reported to the stewards for speeding in the pit lane earlier on. Paul Petit was the driver of the Audi. So that's our second red flag, isn't it, of the session?
Yes, it is. We've got 41 minutes remaining, the clock continuing to count down during this red flag, unlike in qualifying where it will stop. But so everybody has to make their way back at that 50 kilometers per hour. And as you see, the car currently, 26 has been the quickest car all day long. Markus Winkelhock, not surprisingly, whatever Markus Winkelhock does in an Audi, it's always quick.
Yes, indeed.
And it's one of those scenarios where you get a driver like Markus Winkelhock, who, if you put him into a pro car, would win all the races that he's driving in. But he is placed by the company into a team along with a series of drivers. So his opportunity to win, from the front, is going to be somewhat, I would think, as a Pro-Am car, unlikely.
Former GT1 world champion, wasn't he, with that contentious race at Donington Park. Their 88 Mercedes Vincent Abril having brought it into the pit lane.
It looks very Scottish in those colours, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Yes.
All you're missing is the saltire on the top of the roof. There's the car that had contact with the Audi. It's the 15 Lamborghini. In one of those very, the colour has obviously had a, well, you pay extra for that. That's colour to order.
So the session will restart in a short notice. In other words, as soon as the race director is happy, then we'll be good to go. Just wondered, given that the sweeping at the Lesmo curves, whether there was another incident.
Well, somebody's gone very wide on the curve.
Yeah.
You can see they've dragged a load of gravel.
Number 15, the Lamborghini that you were just looking at, that also had an off after the contact at the chicane.
Yeah, well, indicates that maybe, because it was the right rear of the Audi got tagged, and it was the left front of the Lamborghini, and of course the Lesmo is a right-hand corner, so the left front may have been cut down in that contact. Consequently, when he got into the Lesmo, he had suddenly very little to do in terms of keeping the car in control. And that's, I'm sure, why. But why have they left all the gravel on this? Can they not clear it while we're in a red flag situation?
You'd thought the opportunity would be there, wouldn't you?
Well, maybe they need bigger brushes. I don't know.
So, as soon as possible, we'll be back in business then for the continuation of this free practice session.
Now, what I was trying to say about this, there's the contact that the Lamborghini had, and there you can see the left front where all the gravel's being dragged out of. So I suspect in that contact with the Audi, it was a cut tyre. But is that a wrap, or is that a paint to order colour for the Lamborghini? That kind of matte sort of stealth colour. If you put a wrap on a car, that's what you get.
I was thinking it was a wrap, but there's a project to research. 107, the Bentley, with its centenary number, ready to go. And there's 108 arriving on the scene, which Alex Buncan had been behind the wheel of. So that's number 9, the BMW M6. Carrie Moget back into the championship, last year's Sports Club champion, Philippe Steveny and Marc Rostin.
I know Karun was very happy in that Sports Championship, because the level of maybe assertiveness is lower than that you get in the endurance or sprint rounds of Blancpain. And he's come back in again, and it's interesting. I don't know his reasoning for this, because it was what he wanted to do to challenge, or whether other factors, but it'll be a tough season, I would say, for that Buxengunia, the number 9 BMW. Even though it is in the AM Cup, it's still, you're having to deal with pros, pro-am, silvers, a big field here. It's a lot of elbows out in the early part of maybe the first half an hour.
And he's going from a championship where he was a race winner,
yes,
to now having to be the traffic.
Yes, yeah. And again, having to constantly be aware of the quicker cars coming through. So the enjoyment factor might be one, whereas the satisfaction level might be different.
I'm sure that Karim will...
I really call him Karunouja there. That would have been a Freudian slip, wouldn't it?
I'm sure he'll find a camera to talk to at some point, because Karim is a good guy.
Does he ever?
That's 93. That's the Chris Froggatt and Chris Buncombe and Jonathan Hui Ferrari. The Chris's, as I say, raced for Britain in the Nations Cup last year. That very, very successful first event. And Jonathan Hui, sports car Porsche Ferrari enthusiast. And Tempesta Racing running the Pro-Am car. That's 52, which is the car for Louis Machiels, Nick Homerson, double Pro-Am champions, and the redoubtable Andrea Bertolini. This is quite a long stoppage, isn't it?
Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of gravel on the circuit at the exit of Lesmo 1. Wasn't very much we saw down at the first chicane. That looked just like it was a contact on the entry. So, just looking to see how much time this session there is. Is there a reason? Well, he's got a big sweeper on the back of it, I think. Is that a large brush on the back of the... Or is that... Well...
We're getting rid of the gravel by hook and by crook.
Yeah, but the cars are lining up.
Yeah, we're
to go back on track, but the tractor or the blue vehicle has got to find its way back into one of the exit points around. Oh, well, that was a bit careless.
The car comes down the pit lane and the car's released.
Absolutely stupid.
Case to answer there, surely.
Well, that's just stupid.
Now, is that the car controller not paying attention, or the driver not paying attention to the car controller, or either way, you can see that being investigated.
It's a bit like me going into the Westgate car park in Oxford. Always want to be first in and first out. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm a pensioner. Still want to be first in and first out. And I get no concessions for it either. Go up and down the lanes the wrong way if I see a slot. I don't care.
Just to point out, John, I'm not your therapist, but it's nice of you
to I'm getting it out. It's all coming out now.
I don't charge by the hour for listening.
No, it's all coming out. It'll only get better as the first broadcast. You sort of got to shake off the winter dust and get the focus together, and off we go.
And we will go any second. The green flag is being shown in the pit lane. Off we go.
Yeah, 33 minutes of the session remaining, and until the next red flag.
Yeah, it's a funny session, isn't it? They have got some serious mileage in, but it's been interrupted. Yeah,
it's been a sort of a bitty session due to these two stoppages. Oh, somebody's pulled into the fast lane and then had to put into the middle lane. That's unusual.
Right, we're in business again, and 33 minutes and counting, green flag, everyone getting caught up in traffic, so you've got the first usual pattern of the first couple of laps, with people either lagging back to let the traffic go, or being on the toes and getting to the head of the queue because they don't want to get bought. The ACA ASP Mercedes Fleet Garage 59 McLaren Garage 59 these days, which is Andrew Cocotti, Alexander West and Chris Goodwin as the principals.
Aston Martin, not McLaren.
What did I say? McLaren?
I don't know. Don't worry about it.
It's first broadcast of the year.
No, absolutely.
How do you do it?
Well, we don't have a dozen broadcasts. Anyway, it is easy to say McLaren for Garage 59.
After all these years.
With all, yes. Yeah. That was a great song too.
So, I'll try again. The Garage 59 Aston Martin but Chris Goodwin and Alexander West with Andrew Kokodi as the team principals was what I was stumbling towards. Right, this is on board 72, which means that you are riding with the Ferrari of Davide Rigon, Mikhail Alyoshin and Mira Molina. And who did we put into the car? Alyoshin, the Russian driver.
So down into the Parabolica, and the Aston Martin very keen to try and get ahead of the Mercedes. And will he be bullish about it? Again, takes the inside line, maintains it. So Andrew Watson is keen to make up, certainly lost a lot of track time with that misfire that they had on Friday. There is the Ferrari. You can see the straight line difference between the Lamborghini. Bigger difference, of course, the Lamborghini backs off early coming into Parabolica and lets the Ferrari have a slightly easier entry and a consequent much better exit.
Alyoshin over the timing line, onto a flying lap now. See the telemetry, the speed building. He's in 5th. Over the line, you're riding with him. 6th gear. And there's still more. 266, yeah. 67.
270-ish.
What's he going to get to before he breaks? Just
273.
273, yeah.
Just over 170 miles an hour.
Hard on the brakes into that chicane. The first chicane, 72, then Mikhail Alyoshin, the Russian driver. Came into Blancpain last year. And the SMP Racing Ferrari, run out of the AF Corsa stable, goes now through the Curva Grande.
So the R Sport, Aston Martin about to be gobbled up by the 72 Ferrari into the second chicane. Well, again, with the V8 twin turbo in the Aston Martin against the V8 twin turbo in the Ferrari. But you can see the Ferrari is physically the smaller of the two cars, so therefore doesn't punch such a big hole in the air, where the Aston is, well, you can see the shape of it is, well, it's very aerodynamic, but it is a much larger car. So can the Ferrari do anything up into the Ascari chicane? It's probably very unlikely, but they'll be prepared more for a run out of the Ascari down into Parabolica. And if the Ferrari can pass the Aston at this part of the racetrack, augurs very well indeed for that car's pace in qualifying.
Indeed so, as we've got this final half an hour before we get to pre-qualifying, which, as we've been saying, because of the potential weather tomorrow, could end up deciding the grid, because if you can't run qualifying, then you have to take the times from pre-qualifying to base the grid on, and that could be where we end up. Rolfi Nijken at the wheel of number 63, Lamborghini second, but of course the times not having been set by the driver that's in the car. Now the bulk of the quick times were set earlier on in the session.
Yeah, again, we keep repeating it, fresh tyres. Towards the end of the session, just under half an hour to go. Tyres are done in some cases now. Well, in some cases not a huge number of laps, unless the timing and scoring, and to me the timing and scoring hasn't really changed in the last half hour, the number of laps that teams have done.
Rinaldi Ferrari with the pseudonym Steve Parrow down towards Variante Roggia, rather.
Yeah, the Steve Parrow, it's the only car that's done any significant number of laps so far. That's 18. It's on its 19th lap. The Ferrari, not the Audi. So it's done a significant number of laps, but the quickest car, the 26 Audi, Marcus Winkelhoff, still only showing 4 laps. I find that somewhat strange, but maybe it is the case.
Did its best on its 4th.
Oh, best? Okay, yes.
It's done 19 in total.
Yeah. Took you long enough to work it out, didn't I?
I was looking across all the columns, trying to make sure I was reading it right.
I was looking at so, in fact, some cars have done, yes, 24 laps.
24,
Pierre Errand.
The one that's done the fewest, of course, number 43 Mercedes that went off the road early on, and Renault Kuppens, who took a long time because of a problem to get a lap time in. Lucas Stoltz for Black Falcon. We've not really talked about him very much, but ninth quickest.
I was asked to put money on a car that might win on Sunday. I would have to say the number 4 Black Falcon. Such a good lineup. Jelmer Berlman, Lucas Stoltz, Maro Engel. Very strong across all 3 drivers. No one of those 3 drivers is going to be any quicker than the other, so strong lineup, maybe even stronger than the 88 AKA ASP Mercedes.
Do we know where Maxi Bouk has gone for this season?
Who?
Maxi Bouk.
No. He may turn up in sprints.
Yeah, possibly. Possibly at Spa for the Total 24 Hours of Spa.
Yes, Maxi Group. Yeah.
But it's an interesting entry, you know, because there are all these stars, and yet there are some familiar faces that aren't on the grid this year. That opens it up a bit, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, there have been changes, and those are two significant changes that we have not really been made aware of.
Right, Lucas Stoltz getting caught in traffic here because he's behind 555, Taylor Proto, that we were talking about earlier on, Taylor Proto. Who now gets out of the way on the run down to the Parabolica. So you can have a look at the speed of the Mercedes coming down towards that corner. If we stay with it, we'll see how he fares relative to the Ferrari heading down towards the first chicane. We've got, what, 273 out of the Ferrari. So let's see, as Lucas Stoltz goes a little bit wide, what he's going to do now. Accelerate up towards the timing line. And we're not going to get the graphic now after all that. So we saw it at a different part of the circuit. The Porsche there gets out of the way. Lucas Stoltz goes through. And the lap time that he has just done is a 49.6, whereas the car's best was a 48.1. He gets challenged at the end of the straight by the Lamborghini. Up the curve goes Stoltz now.
Yeah, well, Stoltz, he got past the Lamborghini, and then the Lamborghini looks like it's going to come back at him coming down to the first chicane point. This exercise, he should have just sat behind the Mercedes and taken the preferable entry into that chicane. So the cars, there is the, and one of the Porsches, the Golf Porsche, into the gravel. Is that Lesmo 1?
I think it is. Benjamin Goethe at the wheel, and that would be a stoppage, I would have thought, won't it be?
Yeah, I mean, he's well and truly buried. The gravel there is a different kind of gravel to other parts. Well, anyway, it's going to have to be pulled away, and you can see the skid marks, what went wrong into Lesmo 1. Lesmo, not the most difficult of all the corners around Monza, but
red flag.
There we are, red flag indeed, a third red flag of the session. So that'll have to be pulled by one of the recovery vehicles, and of course, hopefully, the gravel will not just be back. It just lost at the back end of the car coming into the Lesmo 1.
So Benjamin Goethe, inexperienced driver, relatively speaking, drops it, sadly, and he drove in Spanish Formula 4, bit of International GT Open last year. He's only 16 years of age, so he's been thrown in at the deep end rather here.
Well, that is a big ask. I mean, at that age, the limit of experience you've got on these are quick cars. They're not sort of toys. They're pretty quick cars, and if you get caught out in Lesmo 1, that's the penalty you're going to pay.
So the teams not really getting anything out of that last few minutes. Carl's back towards the pit boxes, and this is going to again eat into the remaining 24 minutes.
So let's imagine there's going to be another 8 minutes, possibly up to 10 minutes, for the track to be in a green condition. So we'll have to get a vehicle, a snatch vehicle, to come to Lesmo 1 and get the car removed somewhere safely. Hopefully not drag it back on the track, which they may well do, and then let the car drive back. There is the recovery vehicle already, so whether they can pull it onto the grass and let them drive back from there, or...
Car's undamaged, but it's up to its axles, and they've got to be fairly delicate about this. The last thing you want is to drag the car out and do more damage. Bentley looking resplendent. M Sport await 108 into the pit road. What have we learnt out of this session thus far?
Porsche's back.
Yeah, thanks
and
to Matt
nothing has changed because Marcus Winkelhock still is quickest. I think the fundamental is that it is as competitive as it has ever been.
Yes.
And while this is a session, it isn't going to determine grids. That may happen in the pre-qualifying session at the back end of this afternoon.
Now let's catch up with more drivers while we have the opportunity. Matt Parry is with Dakota.
Matt, a slightly different uniform for you this year, but a very good-looking Aston Martin behind us. Yeah. What is it like to be back in the Pan Series with our motorsport in your Aston Martin?
Yeah, well, I think you said it all. I think an Aston Martin as a brand is fantastic, and I think we see our outfit here. We've got the hospitality and all the cars, so it's certainly special to be in grey, and a little bit different than being in red, but yeah, enjoying it so much so far, and I love the team, and I know the boys quite well from particularly one of my Arden days, so and spending some time there. So yeah, it's like coming back home, really.
You're currently running in 17th. This is a new car for you, new team for you. Lots of new challenges this year, as you can see. Nicky Tim, say hi, Nicky. Nicky, come on. Anyway, Matt, you just got back out of the car. What is the track like today?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's a lot better than yesterday, I think. You know, in terms of we picked up a lot of grip. I think you can see by the times they drastically got lower. So yeah, the track's offering quite a lot of grip, and we're just going through a lot of the development stuff for our car. So you know, we've got following our program, which is really good, and you know, hopefully we'll be right at the top there for tomorrow in qualifying.
Anything you're concerned about?
Not yet. Maybe ask me at the end of the day.
I'll ask you at the end of the day. Good luck. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Interesting point Matt Parry makes there, because behind our motorsports, he's been saying many of the engineers from single-seater background, from Arden, there are some Jota personnel there as well, and he's worked with them in a single-seater environment. They come back together again. 100 extraordinary years in the history of Bentley, and more history to be written this season, no doubt. There's number 108, ready to go back out again.
Yes, going up all the way back to 1919. W.O. Bentley, a lot to answer for, but GT3 Bentley Continental, pretty impressive bit of kit. Very, very, very highly engineered by M Sport up in Cumbria. Malcolm Wilson and the group that are up there do a stunning job.
Number 5, Kim Louis Schramm, brought the car in. German single-seater racer, shares that car, just while we have a moment to mention him, with the young Scottish driver, Finlay Hutchison. He's only 19 years of age, the driver from Dundee, and Ivan Pereiras, moving up from GT4, also in that car. Who's in the next garage? 26, that's Pierre-Yves Pack, who was last driving it with Marcus Winkelhock, which I think means that Simon Gachet is yet to get into the car, although Santalok have done some shuffling of drivers.
The Gachet's in 25.
Yeah, he's been moved, so that means Fabien Michel is the driver that's not yet had a go.
So there is the Porsche making its way back, and so far it doesn't appear to be depositing gravel all over the circuit. Well, I say that, but as it goes into Lesmo 2, gravity takes over, and the gravity and the gravel become one and the same, and that'll be a very fine spray of gravel on the exit. Hopefully not on the line of Lesmo 2.
Not hanging about, is he?
No. Well, there's no reason not to, but of course the difficulty will be when he puts on the brakes coming up into the Ascari chicane. Will there be still any gravel left to deposit onto the braking area into that final chicane on the lap?
That earlier pit incident, by the way, where one was released rather prematurely, that's being looked at by the officials as well. And we are back in business, as you see, because everybody goes pouring out for another 20 minutes. What happens next? 52 ready to go, which Louis Machiels is shown as being still behind the wheel of. I don't think Nick Commerson has yet had a go in that car, though.
Well, they're going to have to get a bit of a hurry on, because 19 minutes remaining, and you've got to give all your 3 drivers, give them time behind the wheel, and you don't want to do it as the consequence of another potential red flag. Yeah.
Cycle through early, make sure you've got them, and then you put your gun in to do a time, but that's more to be concentrated on the pre-qualifying session. So out goes 52. And in fact, having just been talking about Santalok, Fabien Michel now is behind the wheel of number 26. Basically, Simon Gachet and Marcus Winkelhock have been moved across the 2 cars. They switched cars. The other 2 co-drivers in each remain the same. So 25 is now Stephen Palette in the sister car. Christopher Hasser, I don't think we've seen very much out of. He stays, whereas Christopher Mies not on the entry list this year. Right, 18 minutes to change as there the Rover Racing Porsche comes out of the Variante Ascari, Rinaldi Ferrari behind. And just to make the point also, you've got the battles overall. There you've got the Silver Cup, the Pro-Am Cup, and the Am Cup. The Silver Cup brought in a couple of years ago, which has been a big hit with the teams.
Absolutely.
Really good idea.
Yeah, Silver Cup, I think there are 16 entries in the Silver Cup here this weekend. Very, very competitive category. And of course, most likely, victory will come from the Pro category, but you never know. Bits of rubber bouncing off from the rear of the BMW, maybe just something that was on the track getting flicked as the BMW makes its way up through the M6 GT3.
Now, we've had a driver change in number 4. You were mentioning that was a potential winning car earlier when we were looking at Lucas Stolz. They've now put Jelmer Burman into the car, so Burman will be very much a man to watch. 17.5 minutes on the clock. Are we going to get any improved lap times out of people? Again, you've got this fabulous sight of the cars just like an endless stream pouring over the line. Aston Martin, and then you weigh up what's in the pit lane. Still number 19 yet to go back out again, that being the Lucas Mauron, Gerhard Ferraza, Arno Santamato entered the Lamborghini. Lucas Mauron, or Lucas Ayrton Mauron, moving from Lamborghini Super Trofeo and Franz Conrad's cars to Grasser for this year. And it is Lucas Ayrton Mauron who is at the wheel. Car drops, out he goes. Very rapidly as well.
I mean, no time wasted there. No. He just spun the rear wheels again. In some championships, doing that is an offence. You're not allowed to spin the rear wheels as you would leave your pit area, your pit box. As the 26 comes down the still car, quickest car so far with only 16 minutes remaining. Probably highly unlikely anybody's going to improve on that time, unless, and look at this, at the bit of the front guard, front bodywork looks on the left side as it's that little bit of carbon fiber just behind the wheel. You can see it there is detached, and I wonder how that happened. Is that the has there been a small contact, or is it just natural fatigue? It'll have a small bearing on how the air exits around the wheel arch and flows down the side of the car. It's probably of any significant bearing on a lap time, but it's something that they will have to keep an eye on. If they don't, it will probably be observed by the stewards, and the team will be advised to bring it in.
So Fabien Michel in the car that's currently the quickest. He will not be the quickest driver, but he's in that car, which is a Pro-Am category car, and it's run by the Santilloc Racing Squad under the banner of the Santilloc Junior team. Out of the Parabolica comes Fabien Michel. Rallier, GT racer, French GT Pro-Am champion a couple of years back.
Interesting, taking the slightly longer way coming across start-finish line than some of the other more competitive cars. As they come out of Parabolica, the natural sort of arc out of the corner would put you more to the centre or the right of the racetrack, and that would maybe shorten it by a metre or two. Whereas 26 decided that it was, well, Fabien Michel just let the car stay out on the left-hand side.
But his main aim in these relatively few minutes is mileage, isn't it?
It's not track time.
Yeah, he's not after time,
no.
He's not after the heroics. He wants to get happy with the car, the setup, the balance, the feel, everything else, ready for pre-qualifying and fundamentally ready for the race, which could be on a wet road.
It could be actually worse than wet.
Yeah. Stuart Parker was asking this morning, he said, I've been to see Claude Sermon, the technical director of the championship, to ask if we can fit a snorkel. He's fearing the worst.
Well, the trouble is a snorkel also becomes an aerodynamic device.
It's quite.
Or some engineers would turn it into an aerodynamic device.
So we're not getting any improvements at the moment, but in most cases, the gun driver has had his time in the car, although Maxime Martin is on track, and Maxime Soulet is on track, and Matt Campbell, Jelmer Burman, Miguel Molina, Nicky Tibb, all shown as being the drivers for relevant cars. So things could be happening. Carrie Moget has gone back out again.
So Aston Martin, Mercedes, same power units. Audi, Lamborghini, same power units.
There you see that damaged bodywork that John was talking about, flapping on the left front.
It isn't going to improve, I can tell you that now. And while it's not doing anything that's going to have a bearing on the car's safety, okay, we've got, what, 13 minutes of the session remaining. It probably would take that and more to secure it or make sure it doesn't continue. Oh, a bit of throttle there coming through the Parabolica, number 5. That was a big bootful of throttle to check the car's exit a little bit early in the corner, so it didn't push it and stop the car to tighten its exit.
Ivan Pereira's at the wheel of it as it goes through. So that car is currently 35th. But again, how much do you read into this session? Very, very little. what it has proved is who's got problems, because we know there's a rather damaged Stracker Mercedes. We've seen other people fall off the road. Jack Hawksworth's car hasn't been out again, of course. Over 10 minutes it's shown as being in the pits. Well, it's the bulk of the session in real terms. So 12 minutes to go, and I'm looking to see who else is out there that might be able to shuffle the order, but for now it's just a case of doing the mileage. There's number 25, that's the sister Santalot car. So that's Christopher Haase. Again, having mentioned he hasn't done very much, so he's now finally advised the co-drivers out the seat.
I mean, that is another your pro car. Oh, Lamborghini, and which one was that? The 5.5 what? Anyway, off at Lesmo one, but didn't put it in the gravel, but went a bit of grass cutting. Now it pulls over to the left, let the 25 Audi get through, but compromises the Audi in terms of lap time, having to take, there we go. No, that's the Ferrari coming through. There's the Lambo. Back end stepped out, corrected it. Of course, the car then was well off track positions, but kept going straight through the gravel. Bit of rallycross, back onto the racetrack. And there we see the 25, suddenly its time was compromised. Not that it was going to be a time that would likely to make a lot of difference to its overall position. Maybe, well, Christopher Haase behind the wheel, always currently down in 14th position.
Diego Menchaca, I think, was the driver of the Lamborghini that was going rallycrossing. So he survives the experience. New to GT racing, really, this year.
It's nice to see Phil Keane in what you call a sort of a factory Lamborghini, albeit one of the FFF teams.
Yeah, he's a Lamborghini factory driver, as he was appointed last year, and getting the recognition he deserves. Christoph Lenz for Raton Racing, up from the Super Trofeo, number 29. And that is one of the AM Cup cars, joined by Stefano Costatini and Thomas Antonio Forna.
So we're looking at the speeds coming up into the Ascari, 256 kilometers, just under 160 miles per hour. And I can't imagine the speed that the Mercedes was doing when it hit the barrier some half an hour ago, but it was probably doing the best part of 155 miles an hour before it got on the brakes. Should be a similar kind of top speed coming down into Parabolica, maybe just under the 260 under the brakes. A little bit of instability there, a little bit of uncertainty. Back end of the car began to get a little bit wayward.
Survives, Lenz up towards the line. Through he goes. Quite a few cars still in the pit lane, actually, almost as though they think that's worth going out.
They've just, I think, pretty much done what they need to do. The just over 9 minutes remaining. So I think the focus now would be looking forward to pre-qualifying, which will be much later in the afternoon. It doesn't finish until around 6:45 or 7 o'clock, in fact.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Different ambient temperature. Goodness knows what's actually going to be the weather pattern.
Yeah, exactly. So there is number 29, Christoph Lenz, heads through the Variante Roggia. Number 23 still pressing on also here.
Now that is the Lexus.
Yeah.
There is a Lexus, but it's not the Emil Frey.
No, it's run by Tech 1 Racing, Simon Abadai's team, and Fabien Barthez, the former Manchester United goalkeeper, World Cup winner, but this prolific racer is the man behind the wheel of it. We've seen a bit of Barthez in Blancpain, and he's raced at Le Mans as well, but with Tech 1 Racing and the Lexus, Ben and Delhay's co-driver, just the two of them in the car.
Yes, just interesting. Again, straight line speed of the Lexus, you can see Aston Martin not really able to do very much about the straight line speed of Fabien Barthez into Parabolica. So the Aston coming into the pit lane. That's the reason maybe why he didn't make any further effort to challenge into Parabolica.
So Barthez goes through. That actually is the slowest car of those that have done the bulk of the session. If you exclude the Stracker Mercedes for a moment, because it didn't do a proper lap time, that Barthez is the slowest of those that have been out there for the duration. So it's a new team into Blancpain, it's a new car to the team. There's a lot of learning going on here.
Yeah, but this car, or one of these cars, of course, the victory, famous victory back at Paul Ricard. So the car is competitive in terms of its competition. Of course, it's a brand new team and a different quality or standard of drivers behind the wheel.
It's an AM Cup car, so it's only looking for a class win. This is on board 72 Miguel Molina,
Ferrari,
and he's through the Variante Ascari.
Oh, back end again stepped out, so we had to take a little bit of right hand down, and that's always the danger on the exit. That's the Miguel Molina. If you come through, no, that's a live lap. What we had seen was a lap or two ago.
Speed building down towards the Parabolica this time. 250, 259, 260, still building. 262, and he hits the brakes, turns in through the right. We know the Ferraris are always good around here. What can he do in a straight line up past the pits now with 6 3/4 minutes still to go?
So where is our speed indicator? Let's have a look and see what the Ferrari, can we get an indication of what the Ferrari does? Maybe this car hasn't equipped with the relevant. So down into a lot of traffic just on these closing minutes, 6.5 minutes to go. So frustrating for Molina, having to try to do a run of maybe 6 or 8 laps and then having to deal with those slower cars on their way down into the first chicane.
Past the Ram Racing Mercedes, Ramon Vos. That's a car that's been off and back on again. 98 Porsche, that's Romain Dumas again.
Up at the chicane, up at the Ascari. Now, we saw that earlier on. Matt Campbell got into trouble there. There's a left front of that car. Suddenly, I just wondered that the brake lights came on, or whether he's just trying to get the gravel out of the nose of the car. He never even... Something weird. Now, there's something not right. Whether there was a deflating tyre. Because as he got out of the chicane, he then slowed down, put the brakes on, and I think there's no doubt he's going to come into the pits for an investigation. There's 15, been in all sorts of trouble, this Lamborghini.
So off again, drives through the gravel. Keep going, keep going. I mean, not so that you drive into the traffic, but keep going so you don't get stuck in the gravel.
Yeah,
that's Pierre Fagioli at the wheel.
Yeah, up at the Ascari chicane, not a great place to...
It's all going on there today.
Yeah, it's been a busy part of the racetrack.
Yeah, 5 minutes to go. And now, more gravel on the road. 107 Bentley, where is that? Jules Gounon is 24th. They'll certainly be looking for a little bit more pace when we get to pre-qualifying at the end of the day. And 22, Struan Moore.
Yeah, 36th currently. But that is not representative of what this car will deliver in qualifying.
No, sure. There has been one of the Honda NSXs in Blancpain GT Asia last year, but it's great to have it in Europe. And in a sort of pseudo-broad colour scheme as well, isn't it?
It is. Well, there's this Jenson Button's championship-winning colours from 2009.
So to the Variante Ascari comes Struan Moore. We've seen him in Nissans, McLarens prior to that. Former single-seater gun, number 17 Audi goes through after its spin early on. The Shea Davis, Paul Petit, Alex McDowell car. The British driver Alex McDowell, former World Touring Car, British Touring Car Championship racer. 3 3/4 minutes on the clock now. So it's been a strange session. We've had all these interruptions. We've had a chance to look at the bulk of the cars, and we've seen some of the new drivers, but we don't really know yet, because it's not a relevant session for qualifying pace, who is going to be quick.
Well, that's definitely abuse of track limits. I mean, that was well and truly off, but that's just been an error in the exit of Parabolica. It's a good-looking car.
Yeah.
Got a stonking V6 motor in the back of it.
And there in 108 is Maxime Soulet, wiggling his way out of the turn 1 chicane, heading up now towards the Curva Grande. And there'll be 2 more laps for Maxime Soulet. Alex Buncombe joining, as I say, for this weekend with Andy Soucek and Maxime Soulet, the new Bentley boy. Sule out of Lesmos. And they're down towards the Variante Ascari, trying to steer clear of the traffic as best it can, with one more lap to run at the end of this before the flag comes out.
So really just going through the process rather than attempting to make any changes or improvements to the cars. Maxime Sule just getting accustomed to the feel of the Bentley around the Monza circuit. Maxime Sule, one of the, I think, outstanding racers, not just racing driver, but racers. Think back to some of the fine drives, particularly at Silverstone about 3 years ago in Bentley, and the way he got that car back to victory.
So time for one more lap. You see the old banking there, just to the side of the shots. The race of two worlds. Over the timing line, Sule has gone. 108 is 16 fastest. 107 is now Stephen Kane at the wheel, that's 24th. And it's with the checkered flag at the end of this lap. It's less than a lap time now left in the session.
There's that rumble, the Bentley, the rumble it gives on full throttle, just growls its way all around the circuit.
So more and more heading for the pit lane, calling it a session early. That means that the road is getting a little bit quieter.
It also means you can probably find a spot to park.
Yeah.
Small consideration, but it is a major one when it comes to the race itself, 3 hours on Sunday. Let's go back to the car that's held pole position fundamentally since the track went green just almost an hour and a half ago.
Right, 26 then. This is the Santalok Audi. A 10th is all that's in it. 1 second covers the top 24 in that session, which ain't bad going. That's
I thought it was more competitive last year.
Never satisfies some people. So the flag is imminent, and this much interrupted free practice session comes to a close. So Santalok will be pretty pleased with that, but as we keep saying, how much you read into it is up to you, because you've got the gun drivers doing precious few laps in many of the cars, especially in a Pro-Am, to get the less experienced driver up to speed, and working on setups, rubbing in tyres, working on how the car's balance will feel, all these different things that the teams want to do. They worry about a time later on. There's going to be huge drama come pre-qualifying, because it could sort out the grid for tomorrow's race, depending on what the weather does tomorrow. So free practice comes to an end. We'll have a quick run through the order very shortly, and then, all being well, we'll be back for 5:15 local time for the pre-qualifying session. I say all being well because it might be that after the early delays the timetable slips a little, but 5:15 is the intended on-air time for later on in the afternoon. It's just approaching 1:15 at Monza right now. So the last few cars will take the flag. Way up the curb there in the 87. Mercedes goes Jean-Luc Bobelic, who is the ACA within ACA ASP. The ASP Autosport Promotion, which is the Jérôme Policon element of the team. Jérôme, who came back to racing, didn't he, in Bahrain in the GT4 event last year. But this was the team to beat last season.
Yeah, very much was. On the Mercedes, the car to beat pretty much all through the year as well. Such a well-rounded race car that, you know, AMS, such as, you know, Bobelic, and then the professionals, Raffaele and Marcello, they all can drive it competitively, and the car just is a user-friendly car.
The session then, as I say, at an end. Most people taking the flag in the pit lane rather than taking it on the track and having to do another in-lap. Confirmation of the order then at the end of free practice. Santalok and Audi top the times. it was Marcus Winkelhock that did the time, and for second fastest, Lamborghini, Mirko Bortolotti doing the time. Andrea Bertolini's Ferrari was third, and then fourth, Raffaele Marciello. I didn't see a lot of Michael Meadows in that car, but the Mercedes fourth ahead of Seb Morris, fifth quickest, and then sixth fastest. It was Jake Dennis and Nicky Thiem who did the bulk of the work. Marvin Kirchhoff getting in near the end. Keep on going down the order. You've got Mercedes ahead of Ferrari, Mercedes ahead of Porsche, then Lamborghini, Mercedes, Lamborghini, Audi, and 15th, that's encouraging, the Silver Cup Barwell Lamborghini of James Paul, newcomer to the championship, Jordan Witt and Sandy Mitchell. The 16th fastest car, the quicker of the two works Bentleys, Maxime Soulet ahead of the Aston Martin of Maxime Martin at the end. And then Patrick Assenheimer, new to Blancpain for a full season. 19th was the Tom Onslow Cole driven Mercedes for Ram Racing, and 20th, 98, Sven Müller, Romain Dumas and Mathieu Jaminet, that's the Rover Racing car. So 48 of them we have had out on track. How many we will get for the pre-qualifying session is a bit of a moot point, given that we have a damaged Mercedes, and one of the stewards has just said several drivers to see now, ... So there'll be a few penalties perhaps, or finger wags at least, to factor in before we get to pre-qualifying at the end of the day. Only 33rd though, the Garage 59 Aston Martin, get it right, Colin Edgar, Andrew Watson and Johnny Adams. There's more to come from that for sure. The Honda 36th, Matt McMurray, Philip Frommenweiler and Struan Moore doing the driving duties in that. So again, you've not seen the best of that car early in the weekend. So for pre-qualifying is the next activity on the circuit for the Blancpain GT Series teams, and it's an important session as well, because depending on what the weather does, it could well be that that is from where the grid ends up being formed. So you've seen the times, let's just remind ourselves how we got there and have a look at the highlights of the free practice session here at Monza. It began with an early lock-up off the road going Matt Campbell in the Porsche, then Jack Hawksworth off the road rather more spectacularly, and that with a damaged car meant that he was out of the session and the session had to be stopped while he was removed. Early on it was Marcus Winkelhock that did the best time, but there were dramas lower down as well, as number 17 Paul Petit was tagged into a little spin. He got himself going again, but with gravel on the road and cars in awkward places, so the session was stopped. And when we got back underway, there was yet more fun and games with Diego Menchaca going off the road. We had, of course, in total 3 stoppages with Benjamin Goethe also being off the road. But we look forward to what's going to be an intriguing pre-qualifying session. Join us for that from John and I. Bye-bye for now.